Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Adrian, this is All Booked Up. Today we are going to be having a look at my TBR for May 2021, so what I am aiming to read this month. For those of you who have seen my April wrap-up, you may know that I had a pretty good start to my reading month last month in April, that I followed my TBR pretty accurately till about halfway through the month, and then I derailed madly to one direction. It actually was quite good. I enjoyed my derailment. It meant I read the whole of the Greatcoat series by Sebastian de Castell, which I really loved. It was absolutely worth derailing my TBR for. However, that means that my TBR in May, you will see some familiar faces. A couple of books that are carried over from the previous month. So first up for my TBR in May is going to be a book that, as of recording on the 4th of May, I think it is, I have already finished. And that's because this is a novella. It is by Adrian Tchaikovsky. It is called Firewalkers. So I read my first Adrian Tchaikovsky novel last month, Children of Time, which I really loved. It was a 5-star book for me. I do have a review for that on the channel, so you can go and check that out. Firewalkers is about 100-page novella. It's only 10 chapters. But it was very interesting to me. It was a really enjoyable short novella. It follows a guy called Mao in a world that is sort of, it's not really post-apocalyptic necessarily, but essentially he lives on the equator and the Earth is going through sort of a heat death where spreading from the equator is just barren wasteland of supremely hot Earth. And Mao is a firewalker, so he is sent out from his town, his city, to go into the desert to deal with problems. So his city is an anchor point. It is an elevator essentially to a space station where the rich and the celebrities of the culture, the leaders, live, and they have essentially abandoned Earth to its fate. And we follow Mao and two of his companions as they go on a journey into the wastes to try and solve a problem for the well-to-dos, the leaders of this society. I don't want to tell you much more than that. It is great fun. I really enjoyed it. It was a solid 4-star read for me, which for a novella is very, very good. And yeah, overall, I really enjoyed it. I'm sure you'll hear more about it in the future. Next up is a book that I'm currently most of the way through. This is Mexican Gothic by Silvia Moreno Garcia. I have heard many things about this. I've heard Murphy talk about it as well as other people. I went into this not really thinking this was going to be a book that I loved. It's not really to my taste. So far I am enjoying it. It is definitely a Gothic horror. It is set early in the 20th century, so it's not current day, but it is definitely set in our world, which is interesting. So it follows Noeme, who is a young 20-something from Mexico City, as she goes to check on her cousin who lives out in the country in a house with her husband. It has classic Gothic vibes. It's very interesting, and I'm sure there will be a review on the channel coming soon. So next on my TBR, let's get to some of the hangovers from last month. So last month I had said that I wanted to read Dragon Mage by M.L. Spencer. This is a chunky book. I have it on my Kindle because otherwise it'd be like this thick. It's like 900 odd pages. I really do want to get to this. I've heard so many good things. It sounds super interesting. I know Petrick is a big fan of it, and I can't wait to get to it. Really, unfortunately, it just slid off the bottom of my TBR. So Dragon Mage by M.L. Spencer. I've heard many good things about the protagonist and the character work we get there, as well as the world, where it's essentially a world that's been split into two. So there's the world above and the world below. And if you have a look at the cover, it's got a pretty awesome looking dragon on. So yeah, I cannot wait to get to this book at some point, hopefully in May. The other face you will recognize from last month is this one here, Emperor Gates of Rome by Conor Gordon. I really wanted to start the Emperor series last month. I was aiming to make somewhat of an indentation into it. It's a 5-book series. Unfortunately, I haven't even started it yet. That will be my next audiobook start. I do have an audiobook and I will be listening to that as the next thing. So hopefully I will get through that book. Hopefully it's going to be something I love, because I actually really think that the series sounds like something I will really enjoy. So absolutely looking forward to getting stuck into that. Next up is a book that has been highly recommended by Angela over at Literature Science Alliance. This is 9 Fox Gambit, which is book 1 in the Machineries of Empire series. I have read the first chapter of this so far, and it was just a massive what? I liked it. I liked the way it dropped us in with little context, but it is going to be a real job to work out what's going on here. And I think that's part of the fun. Angela has said that she really enjoyed puzzling together this world and what was going on. I can absolutely see how that would be interesting. It is very, very different to sci-fi I have read in the past, but I'm really hopeful that this is one that I'm going to love. So I'm just getting started on this one, and hopefully it will be as much of a love for me as it is for Angela over at Literature Science Alliance. So after that, we have 2 more books left on this month's TBR. So one of these is Guns of the Dawn by Adrian Tchaikovsky. So this will be the 3rd book by him I'll have read recently. I really am enjoying his sci-fi. This one, however, is a flintlock fantasy from what I can see. I know that Alan over at the Library of Alexandria is doing a buddy read of this with Angela on the Shelf Space server. I'm going to try and jump on that as well. This sounds very interesting. I love flintlock fantasy. I've been a big fan of the Powder Mage trilogy by Brian McClellan, and then as well Lightbringer, which is a little bit less flintlock fantasy, but it does have that level of technology. I love both of those series, so I think and I hope that I will enjoy this one just as much. I believe it is a standalone, and it will be the first fantasy book I've read by Adrian Tchaikovsky. So I'll be interested to see how his sci-fi writing skills translate over to a slightly different genre. Should be very interesting. So hopefully this will be one I love, and I'm sure I will enjoy getting stuck in on the buddy read in the channel on Shelf Space. Now, the last book I am aiming to get to this month is one that I picked up as a Amazon Prime member, so I think this is pre-release, so I'll be interested to see that. It is a new book coming out, and it's Baka by...
What I meant to say here was Veronica Henry, because obviously I can totally read.
Now, I have not heard anything about her. I have not heard anything about this book. I just saw it come up as one of my choices to pick up and have a look at, and I read the blurb and it sounded really interesting. Okay, so I think it's about somebody who has magic who ends up running away with the circus and is using their magic to essentially be a circus performer, and then there is some great evil happening. That's probably completely wrong. If you know about this book and that's completely wrong, you can let me know in the comments, but it kind of sounded interesting to me. It sounded like something I would enjoy, and I really want to start reading some new books, so some new releases, as generally I am reading a lot of backlist books. The only book I've read this year that has come out this year has been The Shadow of the Gods by John Gwynne, so I'm trying to get into a few of the newer releases, and hopefully this is going to be one that I love. So you'll see this is a relatively short TBR this month, although some of the books on this are pretty chunky. So if I make it through this many books this month, it will have been a very good reading month for me. I'm particularly nervous about Dragon Mage, just knowing how big that is. So if I've left that to the end of the month, it may be a little bit of a struggle to get it finished, but we will see. Obviously, I will let you know how this goes in my May wrap-up at the end of the month, and hopefully I will have stuck to my TBR a little bit better than I did in April. Don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you want to, and I will see you again soon.